This is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a model showcase video for this 1/35 scale U.S. Marine Corps M103A2 heavy tank. Unlike my other smaller scale build videos, in which those builds are for private commission and belong to private collectors, this model that you see here belongs to my own personal collection and is not for sale and or purchase. However, if anyone is interested in having a model built to these specifications here, you can contact me through the email address listed below, which is info@eastcoastarmory.com for pricing and availability information. The model is built mostly out of the box, however does feature several aftermarket and custom upgrades. These modifications will be discussed in this video. First, a quick walk around the model. Before I continue with the video, let's go ahead and take a step back to see what the model first started like with the starter kit. And here goes the model prior to assembly and still mint in its box. Starting with the model's box. The box art's a little bit different on this kit in that instead of an illustration, it's just a posterized image of a real M103A2. The rest of the box's graphic design are your typical CAD images, which are standard on contemporary Dragon kits. As for the kit itself, the kit is comprised out of the same components of the M103A1 kit, which was released the previous year. For this kit, Dragon added some extra components in order to make it the A2 version. Also, as of note, amongst the modeling community, this kit here does have several inaccuracies, which are discussed in more detail on online forums and community groups. For this build, however, I was building the model basically out of the box, with the exception of the addition of an aftermarket aluminum barrel. The aluminum barrel that we have here is from RB Model. It's the same barrel that I utilized on my M103A1 build and was highly recommended. Opening the box, we have here the runners. Like I mentioned before, the runners are going to be exactly the same from the 103A1 with the exception of a couple different additions. Here we have the upper and lower hull pieces. This is from the A1, and like I mentioned in the A1 video, do have some nicely rendered cast texturing found on the castings. This here is a newer runner. This runner here is for the A2 variant and features an engine deck, which is actually lifted from the Dragon M48. The pieces themselves look to be very nicely done and look like they will be mating very well to the 103 body. Another runner from the 103A1, which is that of M2 HB 50 caliber, as well as M1919 machine guns, as well as some cradles. Like I mentioned in the other video, this runner is nice for the spare parts alone, and can be used on a rainy day in case a 1919 on a cradle is ever required. The mantlet does have some differences from the A1, in that on the A2 they went ahead and molded in two little notches for the mounting of the tank's searchlight, which gets affixed over the mantlet. Also, another difference between the A2 and the A1 is that on the A1, the handrails that go on the back of the turret are continuous piece. On the A2, there's a small little gap here. The gap is for the storage of the Searchlight when not in use. Tire casting is also the same. As is the road wheels. One addition that Dragon did include with this kit is that of a clear plastic set, which is lifted from the M48. This clear plastic piece is not found on the A1 variant. As we get to the bottom of the box, we have here the rubber tracks. Same tracks again used on the A1. And a decal sheet along with a metal tow cable. And then finally, the instructions. Now, one piece of detailing that is missing on the A2 kit compared to the A1 is on the A1, the kit came with a small little piece of photo etch brass that had some components on it. That piece is not necessary for the A2 version and is omitted with the kit. Starting with the model sprockets, the sprockets were modified in that their mud holes have been added. The mud holes are a common feature that's absent on most 1/35 scale M60 and Patent series of vehicles. But the Patent series, and this design feature stems all the way back to the M26 Pershing, features 3 holes that are found in the drum portion of the sprocket. These holes are for the removal of mud that would build up in this portion over here. The holes are, like I mentioned, absent on the kit and were added with a Dremel, and once added do really help the look of the kit component. Moving our way to the front portion of the vehicle, like I mentioned in the unboxing portion of the video, the kit supplies you with a clear runner that has a bunch of clear casted components on it. This is an improvement from the A1 kit, in which some of these pieces were casted in opaque plastic. On this kit, the clear plastic parts are the lenses for the headlight, as well as the periscope blocks for the driver. Here we can see all the clear parts affixed to the model and are a nice feature. Moving our way to the turret detailing, first takes us to the tow cable. The tow cable on the A2 version of the M103 is different from the A1 in that the A1 featured the tow cable running along this portion here of the fender. Once the A2 received its modernized fenders, the tow cable was moved to the rear portion here of the turret, much similar to an M48 or an M60. The tow cable comes with the kit, and it's an actual metal cable, which is a very nice touch and really helps with the realism of the build when detailing and weathering it. One little quick detail that I recommend is, you can see on the rear portion of the turret there are small little metal clips that are used to support the cable in its rear portion here. Those clips are not included with the kit and are fabricated out of little strips of brass that are bent into use and then glued into the positions that you see here on the model. By adding these little clips really helps the look of the kit. Like I mentioned in the unboxing video and the A1 version of this tank, the barrel was replaced with that of a aluminum barrel from RB model. Here we can see the RB model barrel attached to the model, and just like with the A1 build, it's highly recommended and is a vast improvement over the kit original plastic barrel. Moving from the barrel takes us to another unique feature of the A2 kit, and that is of the large mantlet mounted searchlight. Just like other contemporary tanks of the period, namely the M48 and the M60, the M103 was upgraded with that of a searchlight mounting capability. The searchlight that you see here is a standard USAFV component of the time and is included with the kit. The kit searchlight is nicely detailed, however, certain care needs to be addressed when assembling the searchlight, as the kit searchlight, the way it breaks down, there are several seams that need to be removed, and with the way the piece is detailed, care needs to be exhibit on the piece, or else some of those finer detailing can be either destroyed by the putty or be over sanded when trying to buff down the seams. The front portion of the Searchlight is also made out of clear plastic and is very nicely detailed with all of its riveting detailing present. The interior portion of the Searchlight is also present on this kit. Just like the real Searchlights that I was looking at, on the model here, the rear portion is painted with a high gloss silver paint, while the interior portion of the Searchlight is actually painted with flat black. The bulb exterior is also black, with the bulb on the inside portion would also be silver. The bulb on the interior portion would light up, which would reflect off of the reflective surface and then would shine out through the lens that we have here. Also, one quick tip on assembling this piece is that on the real Searchlights, I noticed that there is a red gasket between the frame and the lens. That gasket feature was painted into the kit supplied piece, and once added really helps the look of the Searchlight. Also, as we can see, the Searchlight is a different color from that of the rest of the vehicle. The Searchlights were a generic USAV component and can be intermixed between vehicles as well as traded and switched from the supply depot. By painting the Searchlight a different color from the rest of the tank, gives the tank a little bit more of a eye-catching popping feature, rather than if the Searchlight would have been made the same color. Also, while on the Searchlight, another mod that was made that was not included with the kit was that of the actual power cable itself. The power cable is a piece of electrical wire that has two pieces of shrink tubing added for that replicate that of the plugs. The kit does supply you with the provision for mounting the power cable to the tank's roof, which is present on the A2 upgrade, however does not include the wire itself. The wire was a simple addition. A small hole was drilled into the rear portion of the Searchlight where the power cable would connect, and another matching hole was drilled into the mounting provision on the roof. The power cable itself is flexible and can move with the gun when it elevates and depresses. To compare the two styles of M103s, I have here the other M103A1. This too is another Dragon kit. The big difference between the M103A1 and the M103A2 is that of the power pack. The M103A1 featured a gasoline engine, was the same engine that was first utilized in the M48 patent. The M103A2 featured the power pack of the M48A3, as well as I believe also the original M60. The big difference is that this engine here is gasoline powered and this engine here is diesel powered. When the United States military decided to standardize all of their tanks with that of diesel engines, the retrofit was carried out to the M103 series, and that resulted in the M103A2. As we can see here, the engine grills and the rear engine deck is almost identical to that of a Patton or an M60. In addition to the engine deck itself, it also features the M48 style air filters, which are mounted on the fenders, as well as the storage bins that are found on the rear. The M103A1, in comparison, features the barbecue style grillwork, which is reminiscent of that of the M48 Patton, as well as the M47 and M46. Also, when the tanks were switched to the A2 configuration, the supports were more improved than that on the A1. Because of that, the small little metal supports which are found on the A1 were no longer needed on the A2 variant. The A2's fenders were a lot more sturdy and robust compared to the earlier, more frail versions found on the A1s. Also, comparing the differences, like I mentioned before, the tow cable on the A1 runs along the tin work, while on the A2 was moved to that of the rear portion of the turret. Also, we can see the difference is that on the A1 there is a small box for that of mounting on the Pioneer tools, while on the A2 the tools were more likely fitted into the sealed storage boxes that we have here on the side of the hull. Also on the A1, on the one side there is the exhaust for the auxiliary generator. This internal layout was changed for the A2, and that small little exhaust pipe was deleted in order to fit the side air filtration system. On the front portion of the A1 and the A2 is also different with that of the heater exhaust. Just like with all contemporary American tank designs, there is a small heater that is gasoline powered and found in the hull of the vehicles. On the M103A1, the exhaust is that of two pipes that Y at the base and then emerge from the side portion here of the tin work. On the 103A2, this design was altered in that of a single wider pipe that emerged from the hull and then wide off into two smokestacks that we have here. Another difference between the A1 and the A2 is that of the rear storage rack on the rear portion of the turret. On the M103A1, the rack is a continuous rail system that goes from either end of the turret. While on the 103A2, the handrail or the storage rack was modified in that a section was removed. The reason for removing the small section was for that of the Searchlight in order for it to be stowed in this position here. The way it would work is that on the real tank there are two small balls that are located on this rack. The balls themselves are identical to ones that you would see on a trailer or a tow hitch and would lock on and disconnect in much of the exact same manner. Even though both kits are made by Dragon and they are both technically representing the same vehicle, the 103A2 kit is slightly more improved from the A1. The Dragon M103A1 did receive a lot of criticism in that it has several dimensional errors in both the hull and the turret. Dragon tried to remedy some of these faults, with namely that of the turret. If we notice here on the top roof portion here of the M103A1, it is just a kind of like a rounded, smooth panel. While on the 103A2, Dragon modified the mold in having the crease put in, which was absent on the A1 version. Also, the 103A2, in addition to having the clear plastic parts like I mentioned earlier, also does not feature any photo etch. If we recall, on the 103A1 kit, there are some photo etch pieces, namely for the tool bin, the fender supports, as well as the M23 cradle for the M2HB heavy machine gun. Another piece that was made in photo etch was these two little brackets that are found here on the front portion of the fenders. On the A2, some parts like the tool bins were obviously not necessary in that they were not present on this vehicle, but the other components, namely the two fender clips, as well as the M2HB, M33 cradle components, are made out of plastic. Because of that, the A2 version is actually a lot easier to put together than the A1 release that preceded the kit by a year. Overall, I'm happy with the outcome of the build in both the end result as well as the original quality of the model. The kit goes together very easily. There's not a whole lot of fitting issues. The build itself is very reminiscent to that of the Tamiya M60A1 as well as the M48A3. If anyone has built those kits before, they could easily make the transition to the Dragon M103A2 kit. The kit itself can be built by an intermediate to advanced model builder. As for a beginner can also tackle this kit. However, it would be wise to have at least the M48 or the Tamiya M60 under his belt before he could tackle something like this. And that concludes this model showcase video for this 1/35th scale U.S. Marine Corps M103A2 heavy tank. If you like this video, stop by and like us on Facebook, and don't forget to check out eastcoastarmory.com for 1/6 and 1/16 scale builds and detail components. Thank you.